I was sitting in that courtroom, hands gripping the edge of the table, watching her lawyer paint me as the villain. My ex-girlfriend, the woman I once thought I would marry, was trying to take everything I had ever worked for. 3 years ago, I believed she was the one. Now she sat across from me with a stack of legal documents claiming I owed her over $200,000. But what she did not know was that I had evidence. Evidence that would flip this entire case upside down. Before we get into how a single piece of proof changed everything, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you are enjoying this story so far, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You will not want to miss what happens next, because what the judge did at the end left everyone in that courtroom speechless. I need to take you back to where this all started. My name is Nathaniel, and I am a 28-year-old software developer living in Seattle. For the past 6 years, I had been building my career working long hours, saving every dollar I could. I finally scraped together enough money to buy a small townhouse in a decent neighborhood. It was not much, but it was mine. Around the same time, I started working on a side project, developing an app for small businesses. It was something I poured my heart into during evenings and weekends, hoping it would eventually take off. 3 years ago, I met Jessica at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was a marketing consultant, charming, ambitious, and easy to talk to. We bonded over our shared love for hiking and indie music. The chemistry between us felt natural and effortless. Those first 6 months together were genuinely blissful. We spent weekends exploring trails in the Cascades, going to concerts, and just enjoying each other's company. She seemed supportive of my app development dreams, and I would help her prepare client presentations. We talked about the future, about building something meaningful together. After about a year of dating, Jessica suggested we move in together. Her lease was ending, and my townhouse had an extra bedroom that was sitting empty. Financially, it made sense for both of us. I was excited about taking that next step with her. She moved in with just a few boxes of belongings, and we spent weekends decorating the place together, creating little routines, figuring out how to share a space. We split the utilities and groceries fairly down the middle. I gave her a key to everything, including my home office, where I worked on my app. During that time, my business actually started gaining real traction. What began as a side project was turning into something legitimate. I secured 3 major clients within a few months. The revenue grew from absolutely nothing to 5 figures monthly. I was working late nights, coding, managing clients, trying to scale the business while keeping my day job. Jessica seemed proud of me at first. She would tell her friends about how hard I was working, how the app was growing. But somewhere around the 2nd year of our relationship, things started to shift. Jessica became increasingly interested in the financial side of my business. She would ask detailed questions about revenue, about contracts, about projections. At first, I thought she was just being supportive, showing interest in what mattered to me. Then she suggested I add her as a business partner, saying she could help with marketing. I declined politely. It was not that I did not value her input, but I wanted to keep my business separate. It was something I had built from nothing, and I was not ready to bring anyone else into the ownership structure. That is when the tension really started. Jessica became critical of my working hours. She accused me of prioritizing the app over our relationship. She started making comments about our money, even though the business was entirely mine. I noticed she had stopped contributing equally to household expenses. When I brought it up gently, she would get defensive, saying I was being petty about money. Looking back, there were red flags I should have seen. She pressured me multiple times to add her name to my bank accounts. She suggested we refinance the townhouse with both our names on the deed. Each time I hesitated. Something in my gut told me to keep those boundaries clear, but I felt guilty. Was I not trusting her enough? Were my friends right when they started pulling me aside at gatherings, quietly warning me to be careful? Then came the moment that changed everything. I came home early one afternoon and found Jessica in my home office, going through my financial documents. She had my business contracts open on her phone, taking photos of them. When I asked her what she was doing, she did not have a good explanation. I stayed calm, but inside I was rattled. We had a conversation that night. I told her I felt uncomfortable with her going through my private business files without asking. She exploded. She accused me of being controlling, of being secretive, of not treating her like an equal partner in our life together. The argument that night made it clear to both of us that something fundamental was broken. I suggested couples therapy, thinking maybe we could work through whatever was happening between us. Jessica refused outright. She said the relationship was over, that she was done. She claimed she had sacrificed everything for me, that I had used her for emotional support while I built my business empire. I was stunned. I did not see it that way at all, but I also was not going to force someone to stay who did not want to be there. As much as it hurt, I agreed. We were not working anymore. Jessica took 2 weeks to pack up her things. The atmosphere in the house during those 14 days was Arctic. I tried to be civil, even helpful, carrying boxes to her car, staying out of her way. She barely said 10 words to me the entire time, but I noticed strange behavior. She took photos of every room in the house with her phone. She made copies of documents from my home office when she thought I was not paying attention. I caught her measuring furniture and taking notes. When I asked what she was doing, she said it was for her records. I did not push it. I just wanted the breakup to be over. On moving day, she loaded the last box into her car and drove away without saying goodbye. She took some shared items we had bought together, which seemed reasonable. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. The relationship had not ended the way I hoped, but at least it was finished. I could move forward. I blocked her on social media, wanting a clean break. I threw myself into work, into the gym, into reconnecting with friends I had neglected. My business kept growing. I signed 2 more major contracts. Life was starting to feel like mine again. The first month after the breakup passed quietly. I started to heal. Then weird things began happening. I received odd emails from addresses I did not recognize, asking detailed questions about my business operations. Someone called a few of my clients, asking suspicious questions about our working relationship. My landlord got an anonymous complaint about illegal business activity being run out of my townhouse, which was completely unfounded. I brushed it all off as strange coincidences. Maybe a competitor was poking around. I did not connect it to Jessica. Then 4 months after she moved out, a legal notice was delivered to my front door. My hands actually shook as I opened the envelope. Jessica was suing me. I had to read the papers 5 times before the reality sank in. She was coming after everything. The lawsuit laid out 5 separate claims, each more outrageous than the last. First, she alleged we were in a common law marriage. She claimed that even though we never had a wedding, we had presented ourselves as married to friends and family, and therefore I owed her an equal division of all assets acquired during our relationship. The problem with that claim, Washington state does not even recognize common law marriage. Second, she claimed she was an informal business partner in my app company. She alleged that her marketing advice had been integral to the success of my business. She demanded 50% ownership of the company and 50% of all future earnings. Her evidence-vague contributions she listed like brand strategy, client relations, and even emotional support. Third, she claimed she had made significant financial contributions to the household and to my business. She demanded reimbursement of $30,000 for expenses she said she had paid. She listed out costs that were either split between us or that simply never happened. Fourth, she wanted half the value of my townhouse. She claimed she had contributed to mortgage payments and that we had a verbal agreement about shared ownership. I had bought that house 2 years before I even met her. Every single mortgage payment came from my bank account alone. Fifth, she was suing me for emotional distress. She claimed I had caused her severe trauma by controlling her finances and isolating her from friends. She wanted $50,000 in damages. The irony was not lost on me. When I added it all up, Jessica was demanding over $200,000 plus ongoing payments from my business revenue. I sat on my couch that night staring at the papers, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. I called my best friend Marcus with a shaking voice. He listened to everything, then said firmly, "Get a lawyer. Right now." I calculated my savings. I had about $40,000 set aside. My business was doing well, bringing in solid revenue, but it was not like I was rich. Legal fees alone could drain everything I had worked for. And what if she somehow won? What if a judge believed her lies? I would lose the townhouse, lose my business, lose everything. I did not sleep that night. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through worst-case scenarios in my head. The next morning, I found Catherine Walsh, an attorney who specialized in both family law and business disputes. Her consultation fee was steep, but I needed help. I brought all the paperwork to her office. She sat across from me, reading through Jessica's claims with an unreadable expression. After what felt like an eternity, she looked up and said, "This is one of the most aggressive overreaches I have seen in my career." I felt a tiny bit of relief. But then she added, "Even frivolous lawsuits are expensive to fight. This is going to cost you." Catherine asked me to gather every piece of evidence I could find. Bank statements showing I paid the mortgage alone before I even knew Jessica existed. Business formation documents proving I created the app entirely on my own, months before we met. Text messages and emails from our relationship. Receipts for shared expenses. I spent days going through old files, printing out records, organizing everything into folders. The evidence was clear. My townhouse purchase documents were dated 2 years before Jessica and I started dating. Every mortgage payment came from my personal checking account. My business registration showed I had formed the company as a sole proprietor before our relationship began. There was no written agreement about partnership, no contract, no emails discussing shared ownership. The bank records showed that Jessica had contributed very little to household expenses, especially in that second year. In fact, I found text messages where she had told a friend she was basically living rent-free. Jessica, on the other hand, submitted her own evidence. She had screenshots of text conversations between us, but they were taken wildly out of context. She had photos of us together at business networking events, claiming those proved she was working as my partner. She got a couple of her friends to write statements, but they were not credible witnesses since they only knew Jessica's version of events. She even created fake expense logs claiming she had paid for things I knew for a fact she had not. The legal process dragged on for months. Depositions were scheduled. I had to take time off work to sit in conference rooms answering questions from Jessica's lawyer. My business growth completely stalled because the stress was consuming me. I was not sleeping. I lost weight. Every spare thought was about the lawsuit. The financial pressure was crushing. Catherine's retainer alone was $15,000, and the costs kept climbing. I dipped into my business savings money I had set aside to finally hire an employee. Every dollar I spent felt like a small victory for Jessica. The emotional toll was even worse than the financial one. I was angry at being falsely accused. I felt betrayed by someone I had once loved. I was terrified of losing everything I had worked for. I was embarrassed explaining the situation to my family. My lowest moment came late one night when I was sitting alone in my townhouse, surrounded by legal bills, wondering if I should just settle to make it all end. I called Catherine at 10 in the evening, my voice breaking. She was firm with me. "Nathaniel," she said, "we have the truth on our side. Do not give up now." The morning of the court hearing finally arrived. I put on my only suit, a navy blue one I had bought for job interviews years ago. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely tie my tie. I met Catherine outside the courthouse. She was carrying 2 massive binders full of evidence, and she gave me a confident nod. "Trust the process," she said. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling on the walls, fluorescent lights overhead, a sense of formality that made my stomach churn. Judge Patricia Hendricks was presiding, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, with reading glasses perched on her nose. Jessica sat on the opposite side of the room with her attorney. She would not make eye contact with me. She looked polished, put together, almost smug. I felt sick. Jessica's attorney went first. He spoke for 45 minutes, presenting her case with dramatic flair. He painted me as manipulative and greedy, someone who had taken advantage of a devoted partner. He claimed Jessica had sacrificed her own career to support mine, that she had been an integral part of building my business, that I had promised her a future and then discarded her when it was convenient. He presented her fabricated evidence, her out-of-context screenshots, her emotional testimony. He made me sound like an absolute monster. Then Jessica herself took the stand. She had clearly practiced. She spoke with fake tears in her eyes, dabbing at them with a tissue. She claimed she had given up everything for me. She said I had promised we would build a life together, that the business would be ours. She alleged I had forced her to do marketing work without compensation, that I had controlled her access to money, that I had isolated her from her support system. She described herself as a victim of financial abuse. I sat there listening, wanting to scream, wanting to stand up and shout that it was all lies. But Catherine had told me to stay calm, to let the evidence speak. Judge Hendricks listened with a completely neutral expression. She took notes carefully, occasionally looking up at Jessica over her glasses. Then she started asking questions. Pointed questions. "Do you have any written agreement about this alleged business partnership?" Jessica fumbled. "Can you provide proof of these payments you claim to have made?" Jessica stammered through an answer. "You said you were isolated from friends, but your social media shows you attending events regularly during the relationship. Can you explain that?" Jessica contradicted herself twice in her responses. I saw the judge's eyes narrow slightly. Then it was Catherine's turn. She stood up calmly, almost casually. She laid out the timeline of events with precision. She presented my bank statements showing every single mortgage payment, all from my account, all dated before I met Jessica. She showed the business registration documents proving I had formed the company alone. She pulled up tax returns demonstrating zero partnership structure. She presented text messages where Jessica herself had admitted to friends that she was living rent-free in my house. But then Catherine pulled out the real evidence. The stuff that changed everything. She had subpoenaed Jessica's social media accounts. She displayed posts from during our relationship, posts Jessica had made public. Multiple captions over the course of 2 years. "So proud of my boyfriend's success. He is building an empire and I get a front row seat. Watching him chase his dreams." Every single post referred to the business as his, never as ours. Never once did Jessica claim partnership or ownership. Jessica's face went pale. Catherine was not finished. She had also subpoenaed Jessica's email records during the discovery phase. She found an email Jessica had sent to a friend 3 months before our breakup. Jessica had forwarded it to herself from my computer, not realizing it would leave a trail. In the email, she wrote explicitly, "I am going to take him for everything when we split. He owes me after all this time." The courtroom went completely silent. Then came the text messages. Screenshots of conversations between Jessica and her friend from after our breakup, just weeks before she filed the lawsuit. "I know I do not have a legal claim, but I will make something up." Another message. "His business is worth a lot now. I deserve some of it for putting up with him." And the most damaging one. "Even if I lose, it will cost him thousands to defend himself. At least I will hurt him financially." Jessica tried to claim the messages were taken out of context. She said she was venting to a friend, that she did not mean it literally. Judge Hendricks' expression hardened. She looked at Jessica for a long moment, then looked at Jessica's attorney, who seemed to have shrunk in his chair. He leaned over and whispered urgently to Jessica. She started crying again, but this time the tears looked real. This time they looked like panic. Judge Hendricks spoke. "I have heard enough." She called a 15-minute recess. Those 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. I sat in the hallway with Catherine, my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Catherine squeezed my shoulder. "Breathe," she said. "Just breathe." When we returned to the courtroom, everyone stood as Judge Hendricks entered and took her seat. She did not waste any time. Her expression was stern, her voice clear and firm. "I will address each claim in turn," she began. "On the matter of common law marriage, Washington State does not recognize common law marriage. This claim is without merit and is dismissed in its entirety." She continued without pause. "On the matter of alleged business partnership, I have reviewed all evidence presented. There is zero documentation of any partnership agreement, formal or informal. The defendant's own social media posts directly contradict her testimony, repeatedly referring to the business as belonging solely to Mr. Nathaniel. This claim is dismissed. On the matter of financial contributions to the household and business, the evidence clearly shows the plaintiff contributed minimally to household expenses. Text messages presented show the plaintiff herself admitted to living essentially rent-free. There is no evidence of any financial investment in the defendant's business. This claim is dismissed. On the matter of property rights, Mr. Nathaniel purchased his home 2 years prior to meeting the plaintiff. Bank records definitively show he made every mortgage payment from his personal account. The plaintiff has no claim to this property. Dismissed. On the matter of emotional distress, the evidence suggests this lawsuit itself was designed to cause distress rather than seek legitimate remedy. The claim is not only dismissed, but borders on bad faith litigation. Judge Hendricks paused. She looked directly at Jessica. The courtroom was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Furthermore, the judge said, "The court finds this lawsuit to be frivolous and filed in bad faith. The evidence of premeditation is clear and deeply troubling. The text messages and emails presented demonstrate this action was brought not to remedy legitimate grievances, but to cause financial and emotional harm to the defendant." Then she said the words, "I will never forget." The plaintiff's claims are denied in their entirety. Furthermore, the plaintiff is hereby ordered to pay the defendant's reasonable legal fees and costs incurred in defending this action. My jaw dropped. Catherine, who had maintained a neutral expression through the entire proceeding, allowed herself a small smile. Jessica looked like she had been slapped. Her lawyer was already packing his briefcase. Judge Hendricks was not finished. "Ms. Jessica, the legal system is not a tool for revenge or extortion. Your actions have wasted valuable court resources and caused unnecessary harm to an innocent party. Mr. Nathaniel, you are free to go. This court is adjourned." She banged the gavel. I could not move for several seconds. The reality of what had just happened was sinking in slowly, like warmth returning to frozen fingers. I had won, not partially, completely. Every single one of Jessica's claims had been thrown out, and she had to pay my legal fees. I looked over at her. She was sitting frozen in her chair, her face red tears streaming down her cheeks. Her attorney was whispering something to her, probably explaining how much this was going to cost her. I felt no satisfaction seeing her like that, just a profound sense of relief and exhaustion. Outside the courthouse, Catherine explained the next steps. Jessica would be required to pay approximately $22,000 to cover my legal expenses. The judgment was now public record. Anyone could look it up and see that her claims had been found frivolous and filed in bad faith. Catherine congratulated me warmly, shaking my hand. "You stood up for yourself," she said. "That takes courage." I called Marcus from the courthouse steps. He answered immediately. "Well," he said, his voice tense. I won, I told him. Everything. Every claim thrown out. She has to pay my legal fees. Marcus shouted so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He said he was buying dinner that we were celebrating properly. I walked to my car in the Seattle afternoon sun. The sky seemed brighter somehow. The weight I had been carrying for months, the constant knot of anxiety in my chest, was finally lifting. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before starting the engine, just breathing, just letting reality settle in. My business was safe. My home was safe. I was not going to be financially ruined. Justice had actually worked. But more than the victory itself, what surprised me was what I felt. I did not feel vengeful. I did not want to gloat or rub the outcome in Jessica's face. I just felt free. I realized sitting there in my car that I did not hate her. I actually pitied her. Whatever desperation or bitterness had driven her to do this, it must have been eating her alive. I hoped in some distant way that she would learn something from this. But that was not my responsibility anymore. The first few weeks after the judgment were surreal. I received a check from Jessica's attorney for my legal fees. I deposited it without any emotion attached to it. Just a transaction closing a chapter. I redirected my energy back into my business. The momentum I had lost during those stressful months started returning. I hired the employee I had put on hold, a talented developer who brought fresh ideas to the team. Revenue picked back up. I could focus again. But I also knew I needed to process what had happened on a deeper level. I started seeing a therapist to work through the betrayal, to understand how I had ignored warning signs, to learn about setting healthier boundaries in relationships. My therapist helped me see that trusting someone who turned out to be untrustworthy was not a character flaw. I had acted in good faith. Jessica had not. That was on her, not on me. I needed to forgive myself for not seeing it coming. I reconnected with parts of my life I had neglected. I spent more time with Marcus and my other close friends. I started hiking again on weekends, something I had completely stopped during the stress of the lawsuit. My app business landed another major contract with a mid-sized retailer. Life started to feel expansive again, like it belonged to me. About 6 months after the court case, I ran into a mutual friend at a coffee shop. We chatted for a bit, and eventually Jessica's name came up. The friend mentioned almost casually that Jessica had moved back in with her parents. She had lost several clients after word got around about the lawsuit and its outcome. Her reputation in the local marketing community had taken a serious hit. I did not feel any satisfaction hearing this. Honestly, I just felt sad. Sad that someone had thrown away their integrity, their credibility, their relationships, all in pursuit of money that was never theirs to begin with. As for my own romantic life, I approached it differently now. I went on a few casual dates, but I was not in any rush. I was more cautious, yes, but I tried not to let what happened with Jessica make me cynical or closed off. I just knew I needed to take my time getting to know someone before letting them deeply into my life. Trust had to be earned gradually through consistent actions over time, not given away freely just because the chemistry felt right. My business continued to grow steadily. I bought new furniture for the townhouse, replacing pieces that carried memories I did not want to keep. I renovated my home office, creating a space that felt fresh and forward-looking. I built a life I was genuinely proud of, one that reflected my values and my efforts. Looking back on everything, I realize the experience taught me lessons I could not have learned any other way. I learned the importance of protecting yourself legally, even with people you love. That does not mean you distrust everyone. It means you maintain appropriate boundaries. Keep your financial affairs in order. Document important agreements. Do not feel guilty for safeguarding what you have built. I learned about relationships too. Real love, real partnership does not demand ownership of your assets or try to claim credit for your achievements. A true partner supports you without expecting to possess what you create. When someone starts pressuring you to merge everything, to eliminate all boundaries between your resources and theirs, that is a warning sign worth paying attention to. Most importantly, I learned about resilience. I had survived my worst fear. The thing that kept me awake at night, the scenario that made my chest tight with panic, had actually happened. And I made it through. I found strength I did not know I had. I stood up for myself when it would have been easier to just give in. I fought back, and the legal system, imperfect as it is, worked when I had truth on my side. The deeper truth, though, is that this was never really about winning against Jessica. It was about reclaiming my dignity and my peace. It was about refusing to be a victim. It was about standing my ground and protecting what I had rightfully built through years of hard work and sacrifice. These days, I keep the court documents in a file folder in the back of my closet. I looked at them one last time before filing them away, then closed the folder. The past is finished. I do not need to carry it with me anymore. What I carry instead is the knowledge that some people will try to take what is not theirs. They will lie, manipulate, and use the system to hurt you if they think they can benefit from it. Your job is not to hate them for it. Your job is not to become bitter or to close yourself off from trust entirely. Your job is to protect what you have built, to stand firm in the truth, and to never apologize for defending yourself. Because the truth, when you have it, when you have documented it, and can prove it, is the most powerful weapon you will ever need. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice actually works the way it is supposed to. Have you ever dealt with someone who tried to take credit for your work or claim they deserved something you built on your own? Drop your story in the comments below. I would love to hear how you handled it. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences like this one. Share this video with anyone who might be going through something similar, because sometimes knowing you are not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for watching, and I hope you walk away from this knowing that standing up for yourself is always worth it. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember that your hard work and integrity are worth protecting.